Like,
Yeah, another enthusiastic Monday, right?
so enthusiastic. I mean, I'm trying. I'm really trying. I'm trying for the people's Lage.
Yeah,
What
that's
people,
why that's
I
just
don't
why we do this. We do it for the peoples,
know. Oh my God.
you
All
know.
right.
Yeah,
This coffee's
especially since this is my fourth show in a row and it's kind of throwing me off. So we did the show Friday, I did Sketchy Saturday, I did Jose's show yesterday, and now we're doing
ta-da! Here we are.
here we are.
Good morning, everyone. It is April 29th, 2024, and I almost said 2021. What
Oh
the
wow, wow,
fuck?
yeah, you just woke up, right?
Yeah, bro. Oh my God.
uh
All right. This is going to be super exciting.
well,
Ah,
we promise we'll wake up in a minute.
the coffee will kick in. I just
Yeah,
started it. All right, you ready for
exactly.
this?
Absolutely not, but hit it.
Ah, still not
Yeah.
ready.
No,
Okay,
I
yeah.
know. It's like I said, it's a little tough today.
Little. Oh my God. Good morning, Daphne.
Good morning, Nita. And good morning, everybody out there waking up with the rest of us. Because when the best part of your day is Folgers in your cup, just stay in bed.
Yeah, Folgers is trash. Oh my God. I don't know how the young Yankees can
Oh,
drink
good
that
morning,
shit.
good morning, Joseph and Okia Fern, and who else? Who
And
else was
Rob
in this?
Multari
And
and
Rob,
eyeball
hello, good
people and
morning,
stuff.
and yes, I see you, my beautiful eyeball people, watching us from regions beyond. If you're following us from Facebook, if you're following us from LinkedIn, come on over to YouTube, join the sexy people in the chat, keep them company. Also, it makes it easier for us to talk to you because Facebook acts up and oh, what happened there?
It's
Something attacked you.
yeah, it ricocheted.
Oh my goodness. It just goes to this is exactly what kind of morning we're having. Yeah, because we know that Facebook and LinkedIn are, they're just what it is.
Okay,
It's a lot
so
easier for
my
us to talk
Facebook
to.
profile is
Uh-huh.
okay.
Oh,
The
okay.
the business page is iffy and groups have been removed from StreamYard because Facebook is trying to like force everybody into the Facebook live triangle, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that doesn't work for us, Facebook. You suck for doing that, but whatever, it
Right.
is what it
Yeah.
is. So, but the profiles are working well.
Okay.
So
Right. But in the end, it's always best for people to come on over
just
to
yeah,
YouTube.
just
It's
come on
it's
over to
easiest for
YouTube.
us to
It's
talk to you
easiest for us
guys.
to see your chat because and we can reply and you'll be able to see it directly because if I reply to someone who comments on Facebook, if I don't pull it up on the screen, they won't see it until I leave the StreamYard later and go and comment on Facebook itself.
Wow. Yeah.
That
It's
they
yeah.
just make it complicated. It's like we
Yeah.
want exclusive monetization. Nah, bitch, you can't have
Right.
this for yourself.
Yeah. So, and while you're on YouTube, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever any of our shows go live. But yeah, I guess introductions all around to everybody. Hello, everyone. My name is Daphne Lage, and I'm an illustrator, cartoonist, and comic book artist from New York. I have been self publishing comics since 1992, and you know what that means.
Valar Morghulis.
Valar Duhairis.
And I am known for the furry fantasy adventure Tall Tales, which is on Kickstarter right now with the new story arc Tears of the Mother. It's a re-release of issues 1 through 5 and the brand new issue 6. Link is in the show notes below. We have less than 2 weeks left. Actually, we have 11 days, not the 11 days that I thought it was a week or so ago when there was a glitch in the system on Kickstarter. But no, now it's actually like 11-ish days left for the campaign. So link is in the show notes below. And thanks to everybody who supported the campaign so far. And I am also known for my medieval fantasy drama, Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, which also returns to Kickstarter in a couple of months, early summer, with Eagle Raven Volume 2, which collects issues 5 through 8 already. Oh my goodness. In the meantime, you can read both my comics online at eagleworks.com, EGOWORKS, and Tall Tales. That's TAILS online.com. And you can check out all my videos on how I make my comics here on YouTube at Daphne Lage, LAGE Art, which also simulcasts through the Indie Comics Network. So like I said before, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when any of our shows go live. And to tell you more about it, here's Nita.
I'm Nita. I have a Google account. It owns the Indie Comics Network on YouTube, where we try to bring you daily comic-centered stuff, and we're doing really good at that. Like seriously, like we're back to more than one show every day of the week. Fridays are hectic, and there's something for everybody all day long. We've got 2 shows every day the rest of the week, and on Wednesdays we have 3 sometimes on movie nights, which happens to be this week. This Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Join myself, C. Michael, Chad Perkins, and some guests as we watch a terrible movie, Attack of the Giant Leeches. Yeah, there's that. There's just stuff. And it's an indiecomicsnetwork.com. So
It's .com.
Cut.
I really am enthusiastic about it. I really do love what I do, but I also love sleep.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I was a little out of it. Like I said, I was a little out of it today too. Like every Sunday night, I go to, good morning. I go to bed having to tell myself out loud, tomorrow is Monday and we have a show. Or else I will completely forget. I mean, it's this ritual I have to do every Sunday, or else I'll just completely forget the show.
My usual ritual is before bed. It's Alexa, set alarm for 7:45 a.m. And then Alexa's like, alarm set for 7:45 a.m. Alexa, set alarm for 8 a.m., 8:15 a.m., 8:30, 8:45, 9, volume 10.
Oh. And also, I would like to apologize to everybody who just had their alarms reset by listening to this.
It's okay. My southern drawl, only mine understands me.
Oh,
and
okay.
occasionally Heather's, but
right. Oh, okay. But yeah, because it's yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like I didn't think we streamed a lot until we skip a couple of days. And then it's like, oh, we actually don't stream that much. And then all of a sudden it feels like, oh my God, we stream a lot.
All we ever did.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like it just keeps switching back and forth like that. Because it's like this week I had a full schedule. And but am I repeating myself? Yeah, because it's like Friday I streamed, Saturday I streamed, Sunday I streamed, and today we're streaming. And now because
Saturday
I streamed. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's probably why it sounds like a lot. Because yes, we did. We were just playing around with just something. We randomly went live on Saturday, and I'd like to thank everybody who just happened to show up.
Right.
We were just
a no notice thing. I'm gonna build the StreamYard. I'm gonna do my thing. It'll be my show.
Right.
just to get on and talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about, or whatever the chat wants to talk about, and whatever packages whoever I and bring on has to open themselves, whatever. It's just it's literally it's part of the dumpster fire, which is a playlist on the network.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and if I just happen to be around,
right,
you know, I'll be on it. But it that's what happened Saturday. It's like, well, I wasn't doing anything, so
right.
But yeah, so if Nita wants to go live, you know, so yeah, it's like, yeah, so let's see, what else have you been up to, you know?
Organizing.
Organizing.
Yeah, like for the first time, my calendar is accurate for the first time since House of Bob.
Oh my
Shots with comics were still a thing.
Wow, I miss House of Bob though. I mean, there really are like some topics that I would like to get deeper into, and yeah, it's like they're getting.
We could do it if we did it like we originally started, but we wouldn't be able to share the same level of art. Like, I don't know. There's a couple episodes.
Yeah, it's like YouTube's been getting a lot more strict. I mean, I don't know if it's related to the whole MasterCard thing or not, but yeah, they've been yeah, I mean, it's like when you have to like start censoring like classical art for like the tiniest little thing, you know. I mean, it's just, yeah,
and there's like no consistency in it.
Yeah,
like
you
can go through channels and see full on fucking porn drawings on certain channels, and then you get flagged for a bikini.
Right? Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah,
like, I don't have a problem with boundaries. Right. Just tell me where they fucking are.
Well, that's what happens when it's like they're all using AI to do, you know, and bots to like do the censoring for them. You know, it's like it's not actually real normal people looking at that little Patreon. It was, unfortunately. No, it was a real not normal person. Right. The way that they were acting about my artwork. So, you know, I don't know. It's just getting tough out there. And like I said, it's like sometimes it's like I just feel like I want to have like conversations about certain things, and it's like, snap, we can't really I'm not gonna
we're not monetized, so it's not as restrictive. Like, I'll give you an example though. The other day there was some art, and this is not YouTube, this is fucking Facebook. Okay,
right.
There was some art, beautiful fucking piece done. Chick kind of laid up in the tub on another girl, legs spread. You know, you can see a little pink coming out the slit, just a little bit, whatever. It gets fucking flagged, even though I decided to censor it on my end.
It was just too hot, even censored.
Even fucking censored. But yet I'm sitting there scrolling and seeing fucking art with full on penetration, hair pulling, fucking ass slamming.
Yeah, it's because I came across that the other day too, and it's like, wait a minute, how is it that gets, you know? I mean, yeah, there's no consistency with any of that, but sometimes I wonder if that's the point. You know, that because it's the censorship is so inconsistent, they don't need to really tell us anything. That will just self-censor. That will just self-censor on our own. Right. You know, that whole
Well, that's never going to happen. I'm always going to push that.
Right. Yeah, the whole Panopticon. Yeah, something like that.
You're going to have to set these boundaries for me.
Right. You know, the concept where it's like it's a prison where you don't know if you're being watched, so the prisoners technically watch each other. So that's kind of that's really a positive note to start the show. Jesus Christ. You know, but
you know, the dystopian future would have electricity, and we'd all be sitting at our computers living it.
Right, yeah, like who knew the dystopia would be this lame? That's what it is. You know, on a different note though, right? Because of my nice little bookshelf here, which is allowing me to bring in more books back into the office, right? So I know I've talked about these books nonstop before. Hey, Carl. But there really did came a point where I realized I couldn't
This one.
there's some things that digital doesn't work with, right?
Oh.
So I finally picked up the physical copy of the 1 hour content plan and the 1 page marketing plan, right? Because yeah, I have these in digital, which by the way, which means that you can get it in digital, you can get it in physical. There's no excuse why you shouldn't have this. If you are serious about trying to survive this social media hellscape we're in, these books really do help. Or at least what it does is that it helps clarify your purpose so that it's easier. It'll help make it easier for you to market yourself, right? Because look, I know that that's not that's pretty much, it's very rarely anybody's favorite thing to do, you know,
What?
with
Marketing. It absolutely is my most favorite thing.
No, and the thing is though, I like it too. You know, I mean, we spoke about it more in detail on another show, but it's like, yeah, it's like I like it because I like feeling like I'm trying to solve a puzzle, you know, and it's like, okay, what are my options? How do I get this to work? Oh, oh no. You know, so you know, and especially when, you know, it comes to like, yeah, everything we're doing online and Kickstarter and crowdfunding and everything. And yeah, and sometimes it does feel like it's getting harder and harder to do that. And you know, anything that kind of helps me like kind of like push forward a little bit more, or at least feel like I'm not drowning. You know, these are kind of like, you know, they're like the little arm floaties, you know, when you're first learning to swim. That's what these are. So it's like, you know, wait, there we go. They're like little arm floaties.
But they're good to have even when you've been at it for a while.
Yeah.
Just to remind yourself, because sometimes, to me, to me, this book puts it all back into fucking basic.
Right.
Because it starts getting complicated when it becomes your mundane.
Yeah.
And you're just constantly doing it. You sometimes forget the basics.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, it reminds you to take this is easier than you're making it out to be.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like
I use it to rein myself in. Like, what are you
doing,
crazy bitch?
You know, yeah, because it's like the one thing that I like that the book does is that it makes you introspective about the work that you're producing. Like because sometimes it's really easy to get like kind of like sucked into like, oh yeah, my comic is the next big thing and this, that, and the other thing. And then it's like when somebody asks you, well, but what is your book about? Who is it for? All of a sudden, nobody has anything to say. They all choke up and pass out, right?
Right.
And especially last night, I was on Jose's show last night. And, you know, the thing that I'm really convinced about with a lot of creators is that they confuse nostalgia for planning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's like, not to goof on the whole, like, yeah, when I was a kid, I, you know, walked both ways in snow to get to school, right, or something, right? But it just, sometimes it feels like that's the conversation. You know, it's like, oh, I remember back in the day when there was like 27 distributors and you could sell 3,000 books. I mean, because that's what happened to us.
Those days are gone.
Right. It's like, you know, my first 3 issues of Tall Tales, they each sold like they out the gate 3,000 copies each. You know, and I don't have any of them left over. So those books are long gone into the wild, right?
Right.
You know, and then it's like, you know, and then it's like there's this talk about, oh, you got to be in comic book stores and this, that, and the other thing. And I go, do you really? I mean, you know, Tall Tales was kicked out of the Diamond catalog years ago. And, you know, and it's like, and pretty much Diamond taught me, it's like, oh, you know what? I really don't need you guys, and especially with the way the market has shrunk, that it's like, here we are, selling, most of us is selling barely 100 copies of our books on Kickstarter, right? I mean, even at the higher level, you're probably selling like 400 or 500 copies. If you're running like a $20,000 or $30,000 campaign and you're really only printing 500 books. And it's like, and then it's like they're all looking at like the direct market like it's a savior, and it's like Jose ran the math on that, and he goes, you have to be selling at least 2,000 copies.
Comic book stores are closing
on a regular basis, to even make it viable. It's not like you could just sell 2,000 copies once and then you're coasting. It's like, no, you have to do that on every issue
for so much less shelf space now.
Yeah.
Because you go into a comic book shop, at least around here, and your selection of comics is very, very small.
Right.
Very small.
Yeah.
Most of the shelf space is toys and merch and shirts and shit like that. Those days are gone.
Right. So it's like, so when I hear creators talking about, getting into retail, getting into Diamond, and I'm like going,
good for them if they do.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, but the thing is though, is like, it like I said, it sounds more like they're trying to chase a nostalgia of being in a comic book shop.
Well, that's all a comic book shop is now.
As opposed to like, this is actually a viable like this is like a viable, thing, it's like, but I guess in the end, it's like, that's not really the point. My point is that that's why, like, sometimes with these conversations, I feel so completely out of the loop, because like, I like comics, but I have no nostalgia for it, if that makes any sense. So it's like, I don't,
I do, but I don't have a fucking nostalgia for the way they were marketed and sold.
Because it's like, look, it's like we're down to 2 distributors now.
Right.
And it's like, and no, we don't, like, nobody sells, the way they used to do back in the day. Ain't nobody out the gate. I mean, Randy would tell us about how, like, one of his books right off the gate sold 30,000. I mean, those, so it's like, so yeah. So when I see these, so when I'm like kind of like in the middle of these business discussions, I'm like, I can't relate, bro. Because me personally, I don't see the point of, it's what we were talking about the other day. It's like, you know what? It's like, yeah, you can look at Common America, you could look at Brian Pulido's audience all you want, but it's like, how much effort do you have to put in to get the minimum of attention from anybody who collects these things? Because I think that a lot of times, like, those discussions serve as a distraction from what you really need to be looking at. Right. And that's part of the reason why I ended up buying these books again, but in physical form. Right. And especially, yeah. So the other day, because I got, speaking of, bugs, right?
Uh-oh. Be right back.
The other day, I ended up, I don't know, I had something stuck in my head. And there was a House of Bob show where Max of Mary Machine Gun, he had said that he believed that the Bad Girl comics, that makes up about 35% of Kickstarter. Now, comics Kickstarter. And to tell you, and honestly, I disagree with that. Um, because I really do think that those books, if anything, they're overexposed, but and so it looks like there's more of them than there really is. So I'm thinking, so I believe that it's more like 20%, that it's not really as big of a segment of the of what's available in comics Kickstarter as people want to believe. Because honestly, it's like there was a point where people were making it sound like as if 90% of the books offered on Kickstarter were Bad Girl TNA books. So I did an initial math run on the top funding books, top 200 funding books on funded comics on Kickstarter. And at that time, TNA books only made up 16% of that 200, with Brian Pulido making up 40% of that 16%. Actual porn made up very, like, you could literally count them on one hand. Actual porn.
That's because the Kickstarter is really hard to get around that.
So it's like, so that's, it's like, yeah, so it's so that was my sample size that I worked with, right? And of course I had people all up my ass about it, and it's like, not my problem. Not my problem. I'm only going by the numbers that I was looking at Kickstarter. And it's like, look, because at least I can show my work. I can show you what I looked at and how I came up with those numbers. Everybody else is just pulling numbers out of their asses, and they want me to just take their word for it. So, if you don't like my numbers, that's not my problem. That's what everybody has their own shows for. So the other day I had a bug in my head about that 30% again, the 35%. So I decided this time, instead of looking at the top 200 most funded comics, I was going to just look at comics in the segment of comics that make in between 10,000 and 100,000.
Okay.
Under other circumstances, because this is how I learned that Kickstarter's search function really, really sucks. And honestly, it is kind of amazing anybody finds anything on Kickstarter, to tell you the truth, because their search function is awful. Because technically what I really wanted was 10,000 to 50K, but it only gave me the option to up to 100K. So okay, so everybody who loves, i.e. hates my Mafs, gird your loins. It's going to get worse from here.
Or go somewhere else. So there's something else on.
It's going to get worse from here. So of all the funded comics, right? I wasn't worried about live campaign. This is all the funded comics that earned between 10K and 100K. Right. There were a total of 4,400 campaigns. Now, to give you perspective, total funded campaigns that made 1,000 to 10K was 11,000. So already it's like you're seeing a huge dip from that beginning section of Kickstarter to this middle ground on Kickstarter. So so out of 11,000, only 4,000 make the cut into, exactly Chad. That make it into the next segment, like the middle segment of Kickstarter.
Right.
So the person who just like Brian Pulido dominates the most funded book comics ever on
Right.
Kickstarter. The person who dominates this particular section of Kickstarter is Pat Shand.
Right.
Right. He's the one that dominates. Because of the sheer amount of books, 4,000, 4,000 campaigns, I had a problem going through because, again, the way they have everything set up, I mean, I must have been like scrolling for what felt like an hour, and then my computer goes, stop, we're not doing this anymore. You know, like, I don't know. It's like the scroll just stops working. So, and this is where I learned, right? This is where I learned that the search function on Kickstarter sucks. Because up until the point I had to stop because my computer said no,
Right.
I had counted out of the 4,400, right? I was able to count 467 bad girl books. Now, one, I'm only judging by the thumbnails, right? And I was not going through individual campaigns to see whether or not they actually were bad girl books. So this is me being very loosey goosey with that number. You know, I'm not, you know, because before I was like, oh, there's a difference between a female lead and a bad girl book or whatever the fuck you want to call it, right?
Right.
Now it's like, look, if I just see a bitch in the thumbnail, it's getting counted. You know, I was not going
sexist.
You know, I wasn't going to like really get into detail because it's like I just wanted to do something just quick and dirty.
If she looked objectified, she was.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Science,
so,
baby.
Yes, it's absolute science. So out of the 4,400, I was able to stop counting at 467 titles, 467 campaigns that fit this very loose, superficial criteria. Right. So according to an online calculator, it was just squeaking under 10% of of it. Actual porn books, I was only able to count 8 actual porn books, and mind you, 467 out of what probably was the several thousand I was able to scroll through. Okay, so so it's like, what, there has to be an easier way to do this, right? So I thought, okay, this is where I found out the search function is shit.
Oh, it's terrible.
I type in, 467 campaigns that I saw, right? Physically saw with my eyeballs, counting on the screen. If I typed in the word sexy in the search bar, only 103 books popped up, and most of them were not the books that I counted. And in fact, they weren't even books that I would have counted. It's like these were just like the most random campaigns, it was like
Morning, Nick.
Yeah, this is how I knew I was in trouble with the search function. Check me. When I typed in not safe for work, I only got, again, 102. And these were the only ones who would admit to it. Let's just put it that way.
But there's a reason why.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. But if I typed in bad girl, only 18 books came up. And again, most of them were not books that you would even think was those types of books. Like it was just really, really random shit. Like it's like, I don't know whether the search is searching in the campaign itself, because it's not like they really allow you to put in keywords or to tag your campaigns. If I typed in good girl, I only got 4.
Aww.
4, and even then, one of them was a book about the dog the Russians shot into space. So obviously that one wasn't a book that fit this criteria. And then if I just typed in adult, I got only 107 books pop up. And again, I was getting books that did not fit any of the criteria that I was looking for, like really random stuff.
Well,
like,
no, because the
yeah.
books that fit that criteria know not to label themselves as such, because we know from experience on social media that those words flag us regardless of the platform. So we're
Well,
not going
if
to
it's
use
in,
bad girl.
well,
We're not going to use adult. We're not going to use not safe for work.
I mean, which makes this experiment difficult.
We need to come up with a code.
Because it's like, because I mean, it's like, look, I can understand that, because that definitely was an issue. That definitely was an issue when we were doing Viking Slut. Yeah, somehow if you have the word slut in the title, Facebook doesn't like it.
And Magi's Grace the first time.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's like
that was
Sex and
embedded in the
Monsters. That one was
HTML.
a tough one too.
Right.
Now, we don't know if that's because it was in the title and then it ended up in the link that it created, right? Or it's like whether the search function is just searching the entire campaign for those keywords, which is how I ended up getting, the story of Leica, in when I was looking up Good Girl, right? So I mean, yeah. So what that tells me is that everybody who does does these types of books, they're either purposefully not using these books so that their campaigns don't get tagged, or they're all in denial as to what they're making. Either one is plausible for me. But so, it's okay. So I'm here staring at my screen. My eyes are bleeding. I'm tired of counting. Right? It's like I currently have a percentage of 10% for TNA books on Kickstarter, for at least this segment of Kickstarter. And it's like, okay, what am I doing here? Right? What am I learning from this? What exactly am I getting out of this? Like, what am I going to do with this information? Which is, it's like, yeah, he can say his shit's not porn all he wants. I just kind of wonder whether he actually believes he's not making porn. You know what I mean? Because I've been seeing some strange shit lately.
Again, you got to know how to market.
Mm-hmm. Porn is for perverts.
Porn is for perverts, so we can't.
Which is what I learned from House of Bob.
Right.
That people on House of Bob always said that it's like sex sells as long as you don't make us feel like perverts when you do it.
Right.
So again, so I'm looking at these numbers and I'm like going, okay, what did I learn from this? What exactly am I going to do with this information?
Morning, Dan.
So what did I come across? Okay, so this is kind of like I said, this whole thing is very superficial based on thumbnails, right? Okay, we talked about the drop from 11K to 44,000 books, crossing that threshold, right?
Right.
So I, even being generous, I think that these types of books pretty much only make up 20% of Kickstarter comics on Kickstarter. I think they're overrepresented in the way we talk about these books, but they're not. They're not the powerhouses people want to believe. Are they an easy sell? Yes. But they're not really the powerhouse that people want to, make
they're not
it sell.
the reasons,
they're not 90%.
They're not funding.
They're not 90% of Kickstarter the way people are making it sound like. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So we know that the tags, nobody tags their books. Like I said, like Nita said, it could be because we technically can't, because it affects our ability to advertise on the rest of social media.
Right.
Okay, but here's where I think it got interesting, where I began to really see something. that I wasn't quite expecting. Whether it's useful or not, I don't know. I'm still trying to percolate this information. Again, it could be my overthinking. What does this mean? This means something. Maybe it doesn't, you know?
Right.
But it's just the pattern. And this is the thing. Okay, so from 1,000, so for the campaigns that make 1,000 to 10K, that segment is where you're going to find all of your experimental books. This is obviously where you're going to find your more amateur books as well. And it's also where you're going to find books that don't fit the mold. And that'll make sense when I talk about the next segment. So this is where you're going to get like a really, really eclectic mix of books is in this section. And also it's the reason why 75% of people who run Kickstarters in comics, this is the section they're usually in. 75%. If you're running a Kickstarter, 75% chance that you're going to be in this segment. 1,000 to 10,000, right? This is where all the weird shit is. This is where, you know, it's like the books that it's like not easily categorized. That's where this most people is in this section. Now, if you're a person who really wants to cross into the next threshold from 10,000 to 100K, like I said, I think the numbers would change differently if I was able to do up to 50K. But, you know, let's just talk about that threshold. When you're crossing into this middle section, and it's literally the middle section of Kickstarter. This is where, this is where it just feels like it was very telling what kind of gets pulled into this section, right? And what I realized, to really cross the threshold into 10K to 100K, your book has to meet very specific markers. And the main marker that I noticed in this segment is the more your book looks like a mainstream comic book, the more likely you are to be in this section. The more likely you're going to cross over into this section. You know, it's like we've spoken before about how Kickstarter has an ecosystem, right? You have to know what the ecosystem is if you really want to maneuver around it. And it's like, look, you don't plant a lawn in a desert community, right? Unless you're going to bring in the tons and tons and gallons and gallons and gallons of water, you know, to support a golf course in the middle of the Arizona desert, right? So it's like, so if you're able to do that and be able to pay, this is the section where the more professional looking artists that they're getting hired to make books that fall in this section. This is not, you don't see a lot of amateur books here, if at all. It's like these are literally like the next level books. You know, books that could easily be in a comic book store, but because we're all micro publishing, you can hella fake it on Kickstarter. Because all these thumbnails that I was looking through, it literally looked like walking into Midtown Comics, and this is the shelf. Yeah, this is the main shelves that you're seeing is this section right here. So that's kind of like the main takeaway that I got from that it's like, yeah, you can do, like, because even when you do your bad girl books, you do, you know, whatever, right? It still has to look a certain way. Right? It has to look like really polished image stuff, or just straight out like anime stuff.
Right.
You know, like anime, those hentai anime games, You know,
Right.
it's like that was like the only, like if there was a difference in style that I saw, that was kind of like what I saw. It's like either the stuff looked like, like it could have come out of Dynamite, or Boom, or it came out of like old style Image, or it looked like a hentai game. When you're on your phone, the princess needs rescuing. Whatever. That's so yeah, so that those are kind of like the two dominant styles in this, in this section. Yeah, and it's like you have to fit the mainstream aesthetic. Jose's always up my ass about what mainstream means. Right. And it's like, look, if the shit looks like it's coming out of, Diamond, like it's in the Diamond catalog, you walk into your, a basic comic book store. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, it looks like that. That's what this section looks like on Kickstarter. So yeah, so you have to, so there's this aesthetic that you have to adhere to make that threshold. Now, are there outliers? Absolutely. Absolutely, there are outliers. But in this section, they really do look like outliers. The only time that starts to change again in terms of, there's a lot of weird eclectic books is when you're back at the high end. Right? But there's a different reason for that. So this section you're talking about, this is where your mid-level books are. They look like they could be in comic book shops. They look like they could be in Diamond. Yes, some might be. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And it's like, this is where they hang out. So obviously the people who are really willing to support these types of books, they really are looking for a certain aesthetic. Or, now remember, I am only basing this information on the thumbnails. So is there a possibility I could be superficially wrong? Absolutely. You take my information with a grain of salt. If you guys want to spend the time going through every single of those 4,000 campaigns to prove me wrong,
go for it.
I salute you.
Me too.
So, but here's the thing though. Here's also the thing that I noticed. Because this is where all the mainstream adjacent books are hanging out, this is where all those thumbnails begin to meld together.
Right.
This is where all the books start to like look the same, that there's a certain homogenization of content of the types of books that you're seeing in this section. And what I got out of that, hey Grant, what I got out of that is that even though there's technically less, I know I said that I hate using this word, but at this moment, I can't think of anything else, any other way to phrase it for people to understand like what I'm going for here.
Okay.
Even though there is technically less competition because you're dropping from 11,000 campaigns to 4,000 campaigns, this is more of a piranha pit than the 11,000s. Because now it's like you have the content, all this similarly created content in this smaller pond. And now you could tell that it's getting much harder to stand out. Because now all the books are kind of looking the same in this section. Not for nothing, this is why the bad girl books stand out in this section. Because holy shit, do a pair of tits stand out on that scroll. Do they sure pop on that scroll. So so when, so because I remember Jose saying that most of the reason why I wasn't seeing, like, I was seeing those books on the higher levels is because this is where they shine. This is the section where they really shine. I mean, because it's like, what was really funny was like counting the campaigns and then have kind of like a dry spell. And then all of a sudden there's like 15 of them in a row.
Mm.
It's like, oh, this is, obvious. So I don't know whether they kind of like coincidentally come out at the same time, but, so it's like, especially if you're doing that type of book, now I understand why this is the section that they thrive in this 1,000 to 100,000 section. And I think it's even more condensed. Honestly, I think most of them are between
10 to 100,000, right?
Right, 10 to 100,000. Okay. But I really do think that most of these books are more in like the 10 to 50,000.
Right.
I think that most of them hang out there. Like I said, I didn't go
through. Do that breakdown.
Right, yeah, because you have to click on the actual campaign to get the final pledge amount.
Right.
And I wasn't going to do that. Remember, there's 4,000 campaigns. I'm not doing that. So if anything, it clarified to me what everybody was talking about. That it's like, oh, by seeing it this way, it's like, that's why. Now, of course, you have to posit, is the average person searching on comics Kickstarter searching by those categories? Like, or are they just seeing the whole mix of what's live, and it's like, that's you get like a more eclectic mix, right? But it's like, all I know is that by seeing the thumbnails this way, I finally beginning to understand. It's like, okay, this is what's going on, right? What was the other thing? Okay, so now here's the thing, though. So like I said, I think that in this section, the competition is a lot fiercer, because now it's like, if everybody has upgraded to a higher level of artwork, right? It's like, and especially if you're, it's like, how do you stand out from that? And of course, like I said, if you're doing a bad girl book, put the right thumbnail in, and it's very easy to stand out. And it's like, and by the way, this is where all the superhero books are too. Like I said, I was very surprised because, for the longest time, I'm like, wait, what? How are people selling superhero? Who's doing superhero books? I can't, and it's like, oh, because they're here. This is where they are. Because I swear to God, I realized that Kickstarter, that by looking at Kickstarter this way, I realized that I was looking at an online version of Forbidden Planet. That this literally was an online version of a comic book store. You have all your bestsellers. You have your Neil Gaimans, your Keanu Reeves, you have your Power Rangers, right? You have your Thundercats. That's all in the front window. Right? They get the premium spot there. You got your Brian Pulido there, right? It's like, you're walking in the street and you're passing the store. Those are the books that are in the front window, right? Those are your books making you're with celebrity endorsements, long form IPs, that people have been building for like 20 years. And, and it's like, and, it's like these were people who are, it's like, if you want to graduate to the window, right? You're in this middle section and you want to graduate to the window. By that point, you have to have the audience to do it.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts. If you want to cross over past 100,000, your audience has to be there. There is no faking that.
Right.
So that's the front window of Forbidden Planet, right? That's where Neil Gaiman is. It's where Keanu Reeves is. It's where that weird webtoons graphic novel that no one's ever heard of, but the shit made like $1.5 million on Kickstarter. That's what's in the front window, right?
Right.
You walk into Forbidden Planet, you pass the Funko Pops, you go all the way to the back where they have all the main bookcases, right? Where they have all the new releases. That's this section of Kickstarter. That's the 10,000 to 100,000 section on Kickstarter. That's what that looks like. You're walking in, you got all the new releases, on those bookcases, and that's what you're looking at. And you're quickly scanning to see what catches your attention, what you're already interested in, what you collect already, what looks similar to what you collect already, right? The 1,000 to 10K section is that bookcase that's in the corner at the end of one of Forbidden Planet's aisles. If anyone has ever been on Forbidden Planet near Union Square, you'll know what I'm talking about. They have this one bookcase that's tucked in, right? That's where you find all the zines, all the independent newspapers, all the independent, all the weird independent comics, local artists, they had that shelf is right there.
That's your indie corner.
In the corner. Yeah, that's your corner right there. That's your corner. And it's like that's what looking at this, realizing what I was looking at on Kickstarter when I was segmenting them like that. On one hand, I found it funny. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, what do I do with this information? Like literally, I just decided to do something stupid. And it's like, okay, now I have this information, but what does it all mean? Does it even matter? It's like, because in the end, none of this changes how I do my book. Right? None of this changes. I'm going to end up stuck on that corner shelf for the entirety of my series. Both of them. For both Tall Tales and Eager Baby. And that's where I'm going to be. Like, if anything, what it did was that it ended kind of like the still obsession I had with having a $10,000 campaign and up. How do I make $10,000 and more? Right?
Right.
And realizing what books are really making it into that section kind of like finally killed that. It's like, you know what? If I make a $10,000 campaign, it's because either I'm selling trades and that's expensive,
Right.
Or it's like it just, ends up that, yeah, it's like if I make 10K, it will because my audience already wants to push my book there, not because I'm specifically catering to that Kickstarter segment. Does that make any sense?
Well, yeah.
And I think that by seeing this, finally killed that thing in the back of my head that was bothering me all this time. How do I make it there? How do I make it there? And then it's like I saw this, I go, oh, I don't make comics like that. And I think going back to the whole thing about people confusing nostalgia for strategy, right? Or at least like worrying too much about what Marvel and DC are doing, like as if like that applies to them. It's like, I think at this point I just finally realized, oh, this has nothing to do with me. Yeah, you would think, right? It's like, yeah, so it's like, I'm looking at this, it's like, oh, this has nothing to do with me.
Right.
It's like, I'm not even, it's like, yeah, was I able to manufacture a campaign that just made that just made $8,000? Yes. But the thing is, though, I wasn't going to get any further because I wasn't following the ecosystem, what the ecosystem of that segment needed. It's like, it's like it wants a specific looking book. You're either doing something that's straight hentai manga looking, right? Or you're doing something that's very J. Scott Campbell looking. Everybody's got a Greg Bo Watson cover. It's like you got a Shikari cover. You got a Shikari cover. It's like they're hiring these pencilers who are just on the cusp of breaking it into Marvel and DC. It's like it's just quality wise, it's I don't want to make it sound like that, like my stuff isn't quality or the books that make under 10,000 is not quality, because that was something that Jose warned me about when I was trying to like articulate what I was saying. Right. Is that making more money doesn't necessarily mean you have a better book. We cannot confuse how much you're making with the quality of your book.
Right.
So it's like, that's not what I'm saying either. And I don't want anyone to interpret that, because look, trust me, I saw plenty of books that it's like, yeah, this is not high literature here.
No, it's a high, it's high quality,
but
is also, but there's a certain aesthetic as well.
Right, exactly. And we've always talked about how aesthetic is really, really important on Kickstarter.
Right.
It's like the type of artwork. Look, if there was one takeaway I could give everybody from this, is that, holy shit, does your thumbnail matter?
Right. Thumbnail is everything.
Your thumbnail is what everyone is judging your campaign on. Your thumbnail is what will make people come back, like click on your campaign.
Well,
and yeah, so if really it's like, did you know that Netflix uses AI to make their thumbnails? That's why no two accounts have this look the same. Like, when you go over to a friend's house and their Netflix,
I don't have friends. I don't know. I have to go to your house to find out.
But that's why, because Netflix uses AI to specifically make thumbnails according to every account. Everybody who's like, whatever you click on, whatever, and it adjusts, and it's the reason why the thumbnails keep changing too.
Wow.
Because they're, so the more people click on a certain thumbnail, the more it starts producing thumbnails that look like that. Remember when Squid Game was all the rage?
Yeah.
Right. And then all of it, did you notice how many thumbnails all of a sudden began to look like Squid Game thumbnails? Like the same color scheme and I
don't pay that much attention to it, to be honest. When I turn that shit on, I already know what I'm going for, and so for me,
but that's but that's
so little TV. It's like,
but that's exactly what's happening. If they see that you're clicking on particular thumbnails, they will actually change the color scheme of your thumbnails.
Wow.
So Kickstarter is not quite like that, because we know that whatever thumbnails we see is whatever we're putting up.
Right.
But yeah, if there was definitely one takeaway that I could tell everybody, it's like, holy shit, do not take your thumbnails for granted. I mean, you really need to think about that. That's your main strategy, because that's what people, your thumbnail and your title, because but the thumbnail especially, you know what, you have to think about it like YouTube, because I think it's like they're really it's like, yeah, people really act like if the thumbnail doesn't interest them, it doesn't matter what your book is. If your thumbnail doesn't fit a certain aesthetic that seems to be popular, people are not going to click on it. I mean, and it's just, yeah, I mean, that's like I said, it's not like a lot of this information is going to make me change how I'm doing things. But I think what it did was that it just finally got things out of the way. Where it's like I could focus more on what I need to do, not worry about something that has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to make those types of books. I'm not going to get a Greg Bo Watson cover. I'm not going to get a Shikari piece. It's like I am not looking for that J. Scott Campbell aesthetic, right?
Right.
So, or that image aesthetic or whatever. It's like, I'm not doing that. So in the end, it's like, okay, so that probably is why I'm still kind of back here.
Right.
Because I'm not doing that. My stuff doesn't look like that. So if you're talking about an ecosystem that wants a certain type of book, and you're not doing that type of book, then what you have to do is you have to figure out what strategies you have to take to work around it.
Right. To become the outlier.
Right. It's like either you become the outlier, or maybe you just have to put your focus in a completely different arena.
Right.
That has really like nothing to do with making a $10,000 campaign on Kickstarter. Maybe you need to find a publisher. Maybe you need to figure out, like, well, because like maybe you need to find a publisher that'll get you in libraries instead of having to worry about being on Kickstarter. But if you're too busy fussing about how do I make a $10,000 Kickstarter in this environment, that's time you're not using figuring out something else that might actually benefit you. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So
you sound like C every day.
Because also the thing is too that I keep saying is that just because you can put effort into something doesn't mean it's worth the outcome is worth the effort.
Right.
Now,
right.
I'm not talking about your actual work now. You have to put effort into your actual work.
Right.
Because in the end, it doesn't matter how many Greg Bo Watson covers you have. If your book is not a good read, if it doesn't have a story that compels people, people are only collecting that Greg Bo Watson cover. They're not collecting your book.
Right.
And your growth is going to be extremely limited because of that. So it's like, so don't get it twisted. You still have to put the work in your book, even though there's an aesthetic that technically you can cater to, doesn't take away from the fact you still have to produce a good book.
Right.
If you want longevity in this game, you still have to have a story people want to come back to. And the market for just some girls in a bikini, whatever. It's like it's actually kind of limited. It's actually kind of limited, and not at least the people doing porn, they know exactly what they're doing.
Right.
They know absolutely they're in an incredibly limited market. They're not going to get very far in this, right? But at least people who do actual porn understand what it is they're doing and that there's limitations to what they're doing. The one thing that I definitely did not see in this section, if there's another takeaway, yeah, you're not selling kids and YA books on this platform. I mean, on the high level, yeah, there was maybe, again, the one or two outliers. But in this level, no. They're not there. I mean, it's like if you're doing, I mean, it's like really, it's like if you're doing like children's books or YA books or middle grade books, you really have to understand what market you're entering on Kickstarter.
Right.
You really do, because you aren't there. I didn't see any. I really didn't see any. You know, it's like you're going to have a hard
do
time.
quite well in the physical realm. And I think the reason why is
absolutely.
because a parent is more likely to buy a book for a kid if they're picking it up off of the shelf as you're walking through a Barnes and Noble or a Walmart or Target than to seek out a book online for their kid. I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
even me, who's used to working in the digital realm, like when we go to Barnes and Noble, the kids are more likely to leave with a book.
Right. I mean, yeah. You know, and look, again, I'm not saying don't try to sell your book on Kickstarter.
No, not
if
at
anything, all. You know, use Kickstarter to raise as much funds as you can.
But know what you're getting into.
Yeah, know what you're getting into and know your limitations.
Right.
You know, a man's got to know his limitations. You know, I mean, you're not. Yeah, unless you're doing like some kind of like recognizable IP, you are not going to hit that threshold. The guy doing the C is for Cthulhu baby books is not making baby books. He's making an adult novelty book.
Right.
In the guise of a baby book. But it's not, people are not buying them for their babies. You know, so it's like when you see that, it's like, you know, you have to recognize it for what it is. It's not, oh, this guy made a baby book, so I'm going to make a baby book. No, this guy made an adult novelty book about Cthulhu.
Right.
He did not make a serious baby book for people
and I mean,
to buy for their children.
And we're not saying nobody's going to give the book to their baby, but the majority.
Yeah, the majority.
Because God knows there's going to be that motherfucker that's going to come in here and be like, well, we bought it for our baby. And shut the fuck up.
Like, good for you.
We're not talking about you. Good for you.
Palmas, good for you. We're not talking about the one person. You know, I mean, it's like we're talking about the general majority, because that's how marketing is planned. Marketing is not planned around selling it to that weirdo hanging out in that hanging out in the corner.
Right.
Although sometimes it can be. But if we're talking about you see, my whole it's like, you know what? Like I said, the thing that I got out of this is that it cleared a lot of bullshit out of my head.
Right.
You know, it took a lot of scrolling, but it's like, you know what? Now that I really understand what I'm looking at, you know, it's like, okay, I can focus more on what I actually have to do, you know, on what I can do, you know, and it's like, and knowing what I'm not going to do, you know, and I think that and I just think that I think a lot more people need to do that. You know, it's like, you need to clarify why you're doing this and what it is you have to do to get what you want. You know, understand why you're doing your book. What is it that you want? And clarify what roads you have to take to actually get what you want. Now, look, if your goal is to actually just get into Diamond so you can say that you can go to a comic book store and pick up your book, then, you know, go for yours.
Right.
You know, but it's like, if your goal is to sell your IP to some studio, it's a different thing. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. You know, you have to take different roads depending on, you know, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish with your book. You know, and like, you know, for someone like me, my goal is just to finish my book.
Right.
So the marketing stuff, as much as I do like to read up on it and try to figure it out. I mean, in the end, the goal is for me to finish my book. Right. And then it's like what I want to worry about afterwards is like, what variations of my book can I keep putting out? Right. You know, it's like, you know, I'm rethinking the whole converting my books into tankobons again, you know, doing them manga sized, you know, and reformatting them for manga. You know, it's like, you know, if, you know, people are always saying it's like, well, man, you know, like kids, they go from reading Dogman to jumping to manga. Right. Well, I still have this thing where it's like, well, you know, is it the format? Is it just they want, it's like, oh, no, it has to be from Japan, you know, or what? Or is it the format? Is it the fact that you get 200 pages, black and white pages for $12? You know, it's like, you know, and it's like, you know, I'd be interested to try that. You know, it's like to produce a tankobon of my books and I don't know, maybe try to get into anime conventions and see how that goes over. Right. Because I'm not going to be in Barnes and Noble anytime soon. You know, it's like, you're not going to find me in the manga section of you know, but yeah, conventions would be the easiest way to kind of test market that kind of stuff. You know, the whole testing of, you know, it's like doing the novelization of Eagle Raven, right? And then doing like deluxe versions and trying to figure out, it's like, okay, will the book, oh, it's like Sister Mercy, kind of like Stephen King's Charlie Choo Choo kids book he wrote under a pen name. It was a prop from Dark Tower, but could also double as a legit kids book while advancing the Dark Tower series. Right. But, you know, Stephen King is not a children's book author. You know, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like, it's the adult novelty, you know? You know, it's like, yeah, it's like, you know, let's see, chances, I think the novelty of it being only from Japan does play a role. Yeah, I do suspect that too, but I'm not sure. Especially
I think it did. I think that novelty is worn off.
I think because of webtoons. Because I think that webtoons really blurred, you know, because now all of a sudden the kids are reading Korean comics and then and then all of a sudden, and then there's this huge crossover with the French market where it's like French publishing houses are collaborating with Japanese studios to create literally Euro manga, to create French manga. You know, so it's like you're seeing a lot of that blurring. You know, the fact that people think that Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's like when you see people go, oh no, I only want to watch the original Japanese version. It's like, should I tell them that the shit's actually Canadian? Bro.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, shit's Canadian. You're more likely to see it in French than in Japanese. You know? So it's like, so I think that a lot of this, you know, cross collaboration is blurring those lines. So there might be a chance, but won't know until I actually make something that fits that, right? Look, in the end, it's an experiment I'd like to do anyway, because I do, you know, it's like, oh, it'd be kind of fun, you know, to put together a tankobon and print it up a couple of copies and call it a day. You know, the beauty of POD printing, you know, it's like that we can actually be more experimental. You know, but it's like, you know, that's, you know, I mean, I don't know. It's like, I just think that, yeah, don't get too wrapped up in things that it distracts you from the options you actually have. Maybe that's my point, right? That if you just keep focusing on what Marvel and DC are doing, you're not focusing on what you should be doing. If you're concerned as to what Polito or Common America are doing, you're not looking at what you should be doing. You know?
Wait, are you saying we should market ourselves differently?
Yeah, probably, right? Which is why I bought the hard copies of these books. Because, you know, yeah, probably it's like, you know, I need to refocus as to, I got to find all my notes that I did for this already, you know, and continue and finishing the book. I think I made it halfway, You know, that it's very easy to kind of get wrapped up in what other people are doing, and oh, why are they succeeding and I'm not, and this, that, and the other thing. Why are they accomplishing this and I'm not? And it's like, how about you put your eyes on your own bag, instead of, counting other people's money, counting other people's backers,
Right.
counting other people's audiences. What eyes on your paper, eyes back on your paper. But you know what? But the thing is, I'd like to fail at that level. I'd like to fail still making millions of dollars. I mean, it's like, but that's what I mean. It's like, it's pointless looking at them anyway, because even when they fail, it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Because they're failing at a completely different level.
They're failing in the millions.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so Mafs. I don't like Mafs, Nita. I don't like the Mafs. I don't like the Mafs. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all?
Well, here's for the people who don't like your Mafs.
Oh no.
Because it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're just talking. Everything was estimated.
Right. Yeah.
Just, it's our own Mafs.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, this is how I think out loud.
Right.
Actually, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm thinking out loud, and I'm trying to apply what I saw to what I'm doing. It's like, is it accurate? No.
Right.
It's like, yeah, Nicholas says you can't catch a trend waves. You can't beat the big guys at the BS they're pulling. Keep making better stuff. The rest doesn't matter. I mean, look, it's like I said, if nobody wants to read your shit, you can have all the greatest marketing in the world. I mean, it's like, look, how many billions of dollars did I forgot what studio it was try to make Riddick a thing?
Huh.
How many billions of dollars did they try pumping out movie after movie? Trying to make Riddick a household franchise. And that did not work. But you put Vin Diesel in a car and all of a sudden there's freaking 11 movies on its own, right?
And I just don't get it.
Well, either way, I mean, yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, sometimes you can't make fetch happen. But
you're a mean girl, Daphne. No. You're very, very mean.
No, well, Jose says that, yeah, because it's like I lose patience with a lot of this stuff.
Run! She's a ghost and a bitch.
Wow, we actually finally got to get that to point. Oh, goodness gracious! But yeah, so it's like, yeah, like I said, it's like, if you think all these numbers are wrong, that's fine. That's fine. I don't care. You know what? It's like the research wasn't for you anyway.
Right.
Because like I said, I was just using this to just finally clarify some stuff, which it did. And the main point is that it made me refocus my effort. It reinforced what I needed to do. And it made me accept what I'm not willing to do.
Right.
And and it's like, look, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. If you don't like the numbers, that's on you. You can make up your own numbers.
I totally stole it from Chad Perkins.
But yeah, so any final thoughts on that? Did any of that make sense whatsoever?
It all made sense. It all made sense.
Right.
But my final thoughts are no, that's it. That's
right.
I mean, you can cater and bend and try to become what that is, or you can and maybe never get there.
Right.
Or you can just continue doing what you're passionate about and what you want to do.
Right.
and hope for the best, become the outlier.
Right. And it's like, look, not for nothing. If you could do both,
Or yeah, if you could do both,
if you could
great.
do both,
Fuck yeah, good for you. You're a god.
I mean, right, exactly. You know, I mean, just because, because in the end, it's like, just because something makes a lot of money doesn't mean that it's quality. But also, there's
Right.
plenty of quality books that really do make the bag. So, you know
Right.
what? Congratulations on that, too. Congratulations on that, too. So, oh my goodness. I think that was way too much math for me today. Way too much. Way too much.
Business. Numbers. Is this working? Yes.
Yay! So that's where I'm at. So, I just want to thank everybody in the chat for trying to make sense of all of this. Thank you so much for joining us and putting up with us for this almost hour and a half. Also, I'm actually glad that everyone is kind of liking the fact that we're stretching out the show a little bit.
Right.
I was a little concerned that it's like, it's like, oh, maybe people just don't want to hang out that long or something. And it's like, no, you guys actually, I think an hour and a half is the perfect length for the show.
For a
So,
long form, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's YouTube fact. That's YouTube science.
Oh yeah,
If you're long form, an hour and a half is ideal.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So yeah, so I'm glad that everyone has been enjoying these more lengthier shows. Sometimes it surprises me. You don't need to do boobs, but yes, that's exactly what we're saying.
Chad's a genius.
You know.
He gets it.
And I'd like to thank my beautiful eyeball people who are watching us from regions beyond. Thank you so much for spending this hour and a half with us as well. I hope that you got something out of this if you were able to make something out of it. At all, but you know what? It's like, look, sometimes we just need to kind of like think a little bit differently to realize where we have to be. So, yeah. So, any final like scheduling or anything?
See, wait, look, I have my calendar set
Right,
up now.
exactly. Right, yeah.
Okay, so tune in tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern for Drawing with Doobie. Jason Doobie will be live streaming. He will usually ask the chat what he should draw. If you get there early enough, he'll probably draw your request. Then tune in Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern for Hyde Hermit Studios with Hoy and sometimes Kai, or no, Kai. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. Never mind. Okay. Yeah. Hoy and sometimes Kai. I get them mixed up because then I almost mixed up the names again. But anyway. Okay. So, and then Wednesdays, Daphne's got her live stream. Christy Shin has her live stream. And this Wednesday, it is the first Wednesday of the month. So we will be having movie night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we will be watching the Attack of the Giant Leeches. Or whatever. It's just horrible, and we're gonna suffer through it with some people. And Thursdays we have Hung on Animation and RSVP, which is Chad and C show. And we're calling her RSVP because every time that RSVP stands for something different, that's at 8 p.m. Eastern. Fridays, Comic by Night at 5 a.m. Back here at 11 a.m. with us. Alex and McClone at 3 p.m. And Creative Cranium with Timothy Flane at 10 p.m. And then Sketchy Saturday will be returning May 11th at 12 noon.
Oh, very
Eastern.
nice.
Yeah, we moved the time so we can get some more West Coast people involved because asking them to get up at 6 a.m. and stream was a bit much. Especially when most artists are night owls anyway. So when we return on the 11th, that will be at noon. And then, of course, there's Art Style Kamikaze that night with Jaden and C, and that's at 10 p.m. And Sunday morning, Sunday Funnies with Randy Zimmerman, and JD closes out the Sunday nights with Talking Comics on a Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
There you go. Oh, that is a lot. That's a lot of shows.
Yeah, and there's more coming. What?
Oh wow! Because you're a masochist.
I am actually.
Right.
Just Just keeping it real.
Yeah, well, hey. And if you want to learn more about me and my artwork and everything that I'm doing, you can head on over to my main portfolio site at egoworks.com, EGOWORKS. The link is right there, where you can find links to all of my galleries and social media sites, but I mostly post to Facebook if you're interested in seeing sketches, current work in progress, updates, any live updates, anything that I'm up to. It usually ends up on Facebook first. And remember, you can also find me here on YouTube for 500 plus videos of how I make my artwork and my semi-weekly art live stream Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 6, 2 hours of me just drawing and just talking to the chat, and we pretty much talk about anything, anything you guys want to talk about. I'm usually game for it. I'm usually working, so it's a nice. It's like I said, it's like being at a convention without feeling like you have to move over because people are trying to shop.
You don't have to smell anybody.
About that, we're all hanging out. And you can also read Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, for free, uploading every day, Monday through Friday. Remember that it returns to Kickstarter early summer with Volume 2, which collects issues 5 through 8. But if you prefer your fantasy to be more of a furry Lord of the Rings adventure, you can follow the link over to Tall Tales, TAILS online.com. And not only can you read the first 20 issues of Tall Tales for free, but you can catch up on the latest story arc, Tears of the Mother, which is also now on Kickstarter with less than 11 days to go on Kickstarter. It's a re-release of issues 1 through 5 and the brand new issue 6. So at least you get to read it free on the website, and then you can come over and support the campaign. Links are in the show notes below. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, chat. Thank you, eyeball people. And of course, thank you to the ancients. In the words of the ancients, eat your food, moisturize, mind your business, and do the work. Because when you actually do the work, you never have to fake any of your accomplishments. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.